Today's Monday morning motivation might hit a sore spot for some of you, and it's how is your inbox going? You know, I own 3 businesses. I have a couple of children who the school seems to be sending me a barrage of emails non-stop, and so my inbox can get really full and can be overwhelming. But I learned a couple of years ago a really clever way to manage my inbox, and I wanted to share it with you because it really does mean, believe it or not, that I have no more than 2 emails in my inbox at any one time. I have a system that I use to manage it so that I don't feel overwhelmed every time I open my emails. And the other thing is, if you've got a really cluttered inbox, you tend to have to go back and read all the emails to think, oh, okay, what am I supposed to be doing with that? So here's the way I manage my inbox. The first thing I do is I read the email, and I decide whether I can answer that email in 2 minutes or whether it's going to take me a lot longer, so it needs some time and energy. If I can answer it in 2 minutes, I do that and I send it off. If I can't, I personally use a project management tool called Asana now, but back when I first started doing this, I moved that email to my to-do folder. So you can either move it to a to-do folder that you've created, or I forward it off now to a project management tool called Asana that I use, and it becomes a task. So it becomes a to-do task in that software that we use. But if you don't have that available to you, you can simply forward the email, drag the email into a folder called To-Do. The next thing I do is, if that email is sitting in my inbox and I'm waiting for someone to tell me something. So I've sent an email out, but I want to keep the email in my inbox because I want to remember that I'm waiting on someone to tell me something. You can either drag it to a folder called Waiting For. So create a folder called Waiting For, and you know that that's in that folder and that you're waiting for somebody. The reason we want to do that is, as I said, you don't want to keep rereading emails wondering, oh, why have I kept that email in my inbox? So you know that in your Waiting For folder, it's where you're waiting for a response. So you're not constantly thinking about all the things that what you're waiting for. You've got it in there and you know you can let that go. I, again, personally now send that to a task in Asana, and then I move it to a date in a couple of days, and then that prompts me to remember that I need to check whether that person's delivered what I needed from them. The third thing is I have a someday maybe folder. Because some things I get and I think, do you know what, that's a great article. I really want to read that more thoroughly. I haven't got the time right now. So I used to move it to a folder called Someday Maybe. Now I forward it as a task, and I actually have a project called Someday Maybe. And this is where maybe on a Friday afternoon when I'm sitting at the kids' basketball waiting for their game to start, or I'm at the airport and my plane's been delayed, I jump into my Someday Maybe folder and I read what it is that I wanted to read. And I'm able to take it, absorb it, really, get the information I need out of it, and then I can delete it. So here's the way to do it. Go through your emails. If you can answer it in 2 minutes, do so and then get rid of it. If you can't, move it to a to-do list, whether it's you have a to-do list, you create a folder, or you've got a project management software like I do called Asana, move it to there and create a task out of it. The third thing, create a Someday Maybe folder so that you don't feel like you're going to miss out on something and that what am I going to do with this? I'll keep it in my inbox and I'll get to it eventually. Move it out of the way so it cleans up your inbox. So that's how I keep my inbox nice and manageable and tidy. Then what I do, if you create the folder called To Do, make sure you flip it so that the oldest are at the top, not the newest, and action them one by one. Luckily for me, using Asana, and this is not an ad for Asana, it's just personally what really works for me, is I am able to sort the task by date. You can't necessarily do that if you just have a folder in your inbox, but I'm able to sort my task by date. So I go through, I forwarded the email to Asana, I then read, I look at it, and then I change the date to when I want to actually action it. The other tip you can do, and this might be taking a little bit too deep for you, is to forward the email to yourself, change the subject line to the actual task name. So some of these subject lines, especially if an email is being forwarded and forwarded and forwarded and forwarded and replied and replied and replied, the actual subject line isn't relevant to what the action item is. So you can actually edit your subject line, forward it to yourself, then drag it to the to-do folder, and then you go, right, I know exactly what I've got to do with that task without having to read the whole flow of emails within that one body of the email. So I hope that's been helpful. If you can get your inbox under control, it really does free you up to allow more creative time in your business, and you're able to sit down and actually get to work and knock off that to-do list much quicker than reading through a very cluttered and overwhelming inbox. Have a fantastic week.